Well, I've lived around here for ages and I've been to the Old Town countless times, but I don't know much about it. What I really need is a historian.
Well, just so happens that's what I am.
Joking.
Well, look at me.
Have you got a minute to take me around?
This is Briançon. It's the city of sundials. Everyone's got a minute here.
Well, what are the chances of that? Let's get on with it.
Okay.
What are you looking for? What's going on?
Well, we've come across a sort of drawbridge. We've got a portcullis above us. We've come through a rampart, so naturally, of course, I'm checking for murder holes.
A murder hole? That sounds quite painful.
Yeah, they weren't intended to provide a friendly welcome. Murder holes were essentially cut through what they sound like, really. Cut through the stone, holes in the ceiling above where you can drop anything you want down onto people you don't particularly want to welcome into your city.
I don't want to stay in here now.
Let's go. Let's go.
So, I thought we were high enough. Why have you dragged me up here?
Well, I told you I was a historian, which is true, but I'm also a bit of a closet geographer. And as much as Briançon is about history, it's also about geography. As you can see, of course, it goes without saying, we have the beautiful backdrop of the high mountains here. In fact, Briançon itself, when you look down upon it, you are actually now looking down upon the highest city in all of France, 1,326 meters. 5 valleys converge on this spot, and just the hill that we've just schlepped up. Behind us there, we have the once upon a time less friendly neighbours, the Italians.
Okay. So there's a lot going on here. It's a central point.
There's a lot going on. From Roman times, this was actually on the Roman route leading up towards the Rhone and further north in France, coming across from the Italian Alps. So traditionally, it was a point of commerce, a lot of trade, that sort of thing going on. And then, as we'll discover when we go back down in towards the citadel, really, is the right word for it, we'll start exploring a little bit more the fortifications that were built during 3 centuries here, when it became obvious that Briançon was a very important strategic location as well, and became this fortified town that we see below us today.
So we're going that way?
I am quite intrigued what you've got in that backpack of yours.
I'll get to that.
You've been schlepping it around all day.
I'll get to that. Come on. Well, all I really know about this bridge is it's called Pont d'Asphalt.
Yeah, Pont d'Asphalt,
right?
that's the right name. Actually, it's named after the military engineer who designed it.
Okay.
The locals here in Briançon gave it a different name. They called it the Pont Diable.
It's a bit scary.
It is a bit, the Devil's Bridge indeed. But which is a little bit unfair actually, because one of the quite remarkable things about this bridge, apart from the fact it took 14 years to build, it was a really audacious architectural design. We're talking about the beginning of the 18th century, so 1734 it was complete. It sits 58 meters above the Durance River, down below. The bridge, the span itself, it's a single arch of 40 meters, and it leads up to one of the many Vauban designed forts on the other side of the Durance River that protected Briançon itself. But not the record, the famous record here, is not a single human life was lost in the construction of that bridge.
Which I'm sure then it was probably quite rare.
Quite rare, indeed.
Well, should we go back across the Devil's Bridge?
I think we should. Let's see if we dare.
And let me tell you about this fountain. actually were here. This is the fountain of the Quatre Sulpices, and you see the sort of ornate spouts there. Once upon a time, they were actually in silver, and they were a donation by a king, King Francois I, who came here to Briançon. The story goes, a bit of a legend, that his son Henry wants to go off hunting by himself in the forest. He went off, he disappeared, and night falls, and he's not back yet. So his father, the king, is furious. He's convinced he's been kidnapped, he's out there being held for ransom, and he makes this decree here in Briançon that unless his son is returned to him by first thing in the morning, he's going to burn the whole town down. Well, night passes, and the son is still not back, and then at dawn, a friendly woodcutter that's found him out there in the forests brings him back in. Father, the king, is over the moon, as you would expect, and as a present to the people of Briançon, donates this fountain here with these spouts on that at the time were made of silver. Right here.
Someone's run away with them.
Someone's nicked them.
Typical. Typical. No, fascinating. So this is, you know, the main street, and I've always wondered what's this all about. Is it just there to make people trip over it, or does it actually serve a purpose?
Well, it does serve that purpose in the winter, and you're right, this is the Grande Rue, the high street, the principal street, if you like. But here it's nicknamed the Gargoyle, Rue de la Gargoyle, because of this body of water that is constantly flowing down it.
Right.
It was put there already back in the 14th century, actually. It goes way back, 1345.
But we're not talking gargoyle like on a church.
We're not, though the origin of the word is probably of that, you know, coming from the throat.
So gargle is throat. So this is your throat.
This is your throat. It is effectively gargling, as we see. There's not a great deal of water in it today. And it's not so important that there's not a great deal of water in it today. But in the 14th century, 17th century, that would have been important because it served one purpose. The only reason you were allowed to draw water from it, if you were living here within inside the walls, was if there was a fire.
Okay.
Is literally what it is there for. If you know, back then the houses would have been even closer together, often made different materials, including a lot of wood and straw. And fire is a really high risk. And you have this running down through the center in order to fire it.
Buckets,
fire, and chuck it on. And Briançon did suffer from fires. There were two truly devastating fires, both of them occurring in the 17th century. Yeah. And by pure bad luck, they happened in the winter.
Why does that make a difference?
That made a difference because, you know, we're in a ski area.
It's frozen.
It's frozen. It was December, it was January, it was frozen. And on both occasions, up to 80% of the old town was really just burnt down, was destroyed by these fires.
Crazy. Interesting times.
Interesting, difficult times.
Yeah, let's keep going.